Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Billy Slater podcast. And Billy, as I say hello to you, gee, there's excitement in the air. The finals have arrived.
All started 28 weeks ago, Mark, over in Las Vegas. And here we are on the eve of the finals. 27 rounds, State of Origin series. The whole lot has all gone under the bridge. And now there's a month of finals to go. And really looking forward to the next 4 weeks.
Before we jump into the games and have a closer look at them, because there are some huge games. I mean, every game is important and every game will be huge. But as a bloke who had plenty of experience in finals footy, week one, I'm assuming the players are bouncing into training. There's a bit of nervous energy about the place, plenty of video, plenty of homework. Take us into the inner sanctum of a team preparing for a finals. What's it like?
Oh, it's very exciting. You work so hard, and it's not just the last 27 weeks. It's the 4 months before that as well. The pre-season that you go to work and you build your base, and it all points to this time of the year. And it doesn't matter whether you finish first or whether you finished eighth. You're always looking at this next month as a different competition. Sure, there's some teams with a bit of an advantage, and everyone's got a different situation. Some are playing elimination finals this weekend, and some are looking to progress to a preliminary final. So, you know, it's a great time of the year to be playing footy, and this is the reason why they do all the hard work and all the sacrifice. So it's a very exciting time.
Well, the Panthers are the reigning premiers, and they kick off the final series on Friday night out at the foot of the mountains up against the Sydney Roosters, second versus third, two of the competition heavyweights. And I think the week will be all about Nathan Cleary. Will he, won't he play? The indications are the number 7 will play, which is good news for the Panthers and for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And if he does play, I think he'll be fit enough to contribute. This is not a new injury to Nathan. He's been playing with this all year. Ivan Cleary mentioned after he went down, I think it was against the Melbourne Storm about a month ago, that he has been carrying this since pre-season. So this is not new to Nathan, and he's been exceptional, and we haven't even known about the shoulder. So if he comes back and it's strong enough and he's able to play, he'll be the difference. We all know what he brings to the footy team, and it's a huge inclusion. If Nathan can get back on the field, he makes them a much different team. They're still a good team, but with Nathan in there, they're a great team.
You often hear people talk about the home ground advantage. Gee, it's important for the Panthers. A huge crowd. It'll be their last game out of the foot in the mountains before they knock it all down and rebuild the stadium. So there'll be plenty of emotion attached to this one too, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. And that home ground advantage is huge. You know, you win the first final and you're 80 minutes away from a grand final. They know what it's all about, the Panthers, and you know, to get that home final out at Penrith is really important for them. It's an emotional place for them, and they've got an opportunity to get an upgraded stadium. But there's something about that history. There's something about the old school suburban ground, and you know, I'm sure they'd like to send it off on a good note.
We then move to the Roosters. Is the jury still out with the Roosters with the injured players and everything else, Bill?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's still out until you actually see otherwise. And you know, it was tough to get a gauge on the Roosters on the weekend because they rested so many players. No Lindsay Collins, both of their wingers were rested. So, you know, we still don't know fully how they're going to perform. I would have liked to see a little bit more consistency and a little bit more patience in their game from the weekend. It was like they were trying to win the game off every play the ball and score off every play the ball. I just think they needed to settle down a little bit and get into the cycle of the game and build some rhythm. So I'm sure they're going to be a different team in the finals. They're going to go after it. And to a certain degree, they're a little bit more dangerous now because 2 weeks ago, everyone was saying, oh, well, the Roosters are one of the teams to beat. Now they've all got a line through them. I certainly don't have a line through the Roosters. They've got too much quality in their team and too much strike. If they get it right, they can still beat anyone on their day. And yes, no Sam Walker, no Brandon Smith, but they still bring quality into the team. Sandon Smith's he's not a reserve grade. He's a first-grade footballer. He played really well on the weekend. And Connor Watson, he's an origin player. So it's not like they're replacing these stars with reserve graders. They're ready to go, the Roosters.
Who wins?
If Nathan plays, I think Penrith win. If Nathan doesn't play, or he plays and he doesn't finish the game due to that shoulder, I think the Roosters can beat them.
Okay. All right, we move to Saturday afternoon, 4:05. All of these games live and free on 9, and we'll have it covered for you on the radio as well with the continuous call team. The second of the qualifying finals, so you've got to finish top 4 to win the comp. That's what history says. Gee, the Melbourne Storm are cruising, aren't they? A couple of big wins, and they take on the Cronulla Sharks at Amy Park Saturday, Arvo Bill.
Well, on Thursday night, everyone had the Melbourne Storm holding up the trophy, and to be fair, they're ticking a lot of boxes. You know, they're nice and fit, healthy. They're playing great footy, and they finished first. So they've given themselves the best run in the final series. So it's hard to argue with that. But then Cronulla played yesterday, and Cronulla are the team that no one's really talking about that tick those boxes as well. They've got all their players back: Nico Hines, Braden Trindle. They're back to their best. I thought they were at their best at Brookvale yesterday. So they take confidence and momentum into the final series. And apart from the home final this weekend, they're sitting in the best position in terms of the ladder position. So you finish fourth, you may as well finish first. The only difference is you don't play at home. So it's not like they haven't beaten the Melbourne Storm this year. And I think they'll come down to Melbourne with a lot of confidence. And to be honest, I think they've, they're playing as good as I've seen them play all year. So in terms of timing your run, they're a dangerous footy team, and this is going to be a great match.
And I think a lot of the talk this week with the Sharks will be, it's Nico Hines' time to shine, because a lot of people keep saying that he hasn't stood up in those big games and taken the game by the scruff of the neck, and he gets an opportunity to say, you know what, I am one of the top line playmakers in the game, and it'll all be about Nico Hines leading into the finals for the Sharkies.
Yeah, absolutely. And the question mark's still on the Cronulla Sharks. The last couple of years, they've done a great job consistently throughout the year to make the finals, but they haven't gone overly well in the final series. I don't know. I don't think they've won a finals game in the last couple of years. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you're right there.
So, those question marks are always going to be there until you answer those question marks. And, the game has got so much pressure in it. The bigger games have got more pressure in it. And, we're talking about it. Everyone's going to be watching it. What a great opportunity. I always see opportunity in these situations. And, knowing Craig Fitzgibbon, his coaching staff, I know Nico Hines, they'll be ready to attack this opportunity. And, like I said, they're a dangerous footy team. They're good footy players, and it's going to be a great match because Melbourne are on top of their game as well.
Yep, you'll be tipping the Melbourne Storm in that one. We go to Townsville. You got to tip the Melbourne Storm. Can't upset Belly.
I don't think I've tipped against Melbourne since I retired, and I don't think I will.
Unlike one of our colleagues, Paul Gallen, who's very competitive in a tipping competition and tips against the Sharks. But it's a story
does he? I wonder if he'll tip the Storm this week.
I told Craig Fitzgibbon that he tipped against the Sharks, and he kicked him out of the dressing rooms. Gal was not happy. We go to Townsville Saturday night, North Queensland taking on Newcastle. And, gee, what about the Cowboys making that statement over Canterbury on the weekend? 44-6. They beat the Bulldogs, and they said to everybody, don't discount us. We're ready to play finals footy.
Yeah, they had a point to prove, didn't they? They come up against the Melbourne Storm team without 11 of their stars, and they leaked 30-something points last week, and they really wanted to prove a point against the Bulldogs, and I thought they were great. I thought they were really good. In saying that, sometimes the consistency throughout your season shows in the big games, and if you're inconsistent throughout the season, you'll be inconsistent throughout the final series. So although they'll be feeling good about their game and they'll be going after it, and they go into the final series with confidence, there's still a question mark over the Cowboys and whether they can win 3 big games to get to the grand final.
The thing I love about the Cowboys and their supporters, and I love that it's a Saturday night game, Bill, because they'll travel from all over North Queensland to be in Townsville on Saturday night. And I know on the radio we hear from people that have travelled 5, 6, 7 hours just to go along and support the North Queensland Cowboys. So they'll have a big crowd there to cheer them on Saturday night, won't they?
I think they'll have 3 sellouts before the last game. I think Penrith will be sold out. Melbourne will be sold out. Townsville will be sold out. And then we've got a core, Manly up against the Bulldogs. It wouldn't surprise me if that's nearly full as well. The game's in a really good position in terms of attendance and people watching our game. It's a great product, and I think we're going to have a great final series, and we're going to have some full houses. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 3 3/4 full.
Then the Knights. Look, it's all about Kalen Ponga, and he was good yesterday, KP, wasn't he?
Well, he was the difference. He was the difference. And he needs his team. He needs his team to lay a platform and build the foundation of their footy game. They held up that end of the bargain, and then he held up his end of the bargain. He created the tries. The 2 tries that they scored directly came off Kalen Ponga. The first one from dummy half. He got in there, saw an opportunity, threw a beautiful pass that the elite number 9s, they are the only ones that can throw those sort of balls at dummy half, and Kalen did that. And then, again, ran into a dead end on the right-hand side of the field, just bounced back across the field, found some space for one of his teammates and put him through. He's a wonderful player, and he is so important to that Newcastle team. But at the same time, the Newcastle team, every individual in that side held up their end of the bargain. They got that foundation right, and they allowed their star captain to go to work and get the job done.
Who are you tipping in that one, Bill?
I actually tipped the Dolphins on the weekend. I was really impressed with the Cowboys, and I was really impressed with the Newcastle. I'm going to tip the home ground advantage up there in Townsville. I think the Cowboys can get the job done, but that'll be a great contest. It's a flip of the coin.
There'll be a buzz in Western Sydney and on the northern beaches ahead of the Sunday game. 2 teams, and you talk about out to make a statement and prove a point. They're both coming off losses heading into the finals. The Bulldogs going down to the Cowboys, Manly going down to Cronulla, and the buzz out there on Sunday at Accor Stadium. Bring it on, eh?
Yeah, it'll be incredible. They're the only 2 teams in the finals that are coming off a loss. So it's ironic that they play each other. So both won't be coming into the game full of confidence about their footy. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Sunday afternoon, Accor Stadium. I was at Accor Stadium on the weekend, and the field is immaculate. It is a great surface. So I think we're going to see some footy played here. Does Tom Trbojevic come up? I've always had a question mark about whether Tom's going to get up for this first final. A fortnight is a very short period of time to get over a grade 3 AC joint. I've had that injury. I know how painful they are. I know you can needle them. So it wouldn't surprise me if he gets out there. But if he cops a whack on it, he's going to know about it. And it's a tough injury to play with. So yeah, that'll be the talking point. Very similar to Nathan Cleary. Does Tom Trbojevic play in this game, and does he get up for it?
A week in rugby league's a long time, but 12 months is even longer. The Bulldogs story this year and their turnaround to play finals footy, I think, is one of the great stories of 2024. What say you, Bill?
Yeah, I think it's a very successful year, incredibly successful year. I think Cameron Ciraldo has done a great job in terms of top quality elite players. I think they're probably lacking a little bit compared to some of the other teams. But they've done a great job of galvanising the team and playing as a team. They've been the best defensive team in the competition for a long period of time. The last 2 weeks have been a concern, leaking, I think, about 70 or 80 points in the last 2 weeks, which is a real concern heading into the final series. That's what they've hung their hat on the defensive side of the game. They've hung their hat on the work ethic side of the game. And they've just slipped in that. I know they've had some injuries, but that's a part of the game that they'll want to get right in the finals. And, it's been a very successful year. And you can run into the the problem of thinking about it's being successful at this time of the year and all of a sudden being content with that. So I'm sure internally they're not thinking like that, but subconsciously you can just be content with what you've done already. So be interesting to see Sunday afternoon.
You know, the other thing I was thinking while you were talking there, Manly. Someone like Luke Brooks, who at this time of the year is putting his feet up, might be planning his holiday, going and enjoying himself. Not anymore. He's getting ready for some finals footy, Luke Brooks, alongside an experienced campaigner who you've worked with pretty closely this year in Daly Cherry Evans. And
he deserves it. He's earned it. He's been one of the best players for Manly all season, and I can't remember Luke Brooks actually having a week off. I think he may have had a couple of weeks off, but he's played nearly every game for Manly. Some players have been out through representative and whatnot, but he's been a direct reason why the Manly Sea Eagles are in the position they're in, and I'm sure he's really excited about this final series. And like I said, he's earned the opportunity to be there, and I think he'll make a fist of it. And let's hope Tom Trbojevic gets up, because he makes them a much better team.
Give us your tip in that one, Billy.
Manly
Sea Eagles to live to fight another day, and Canterbury to bow out for 2024. Well, that's a look at the final series for week one. A couple of other issues in rugby league to get your thoughts on, Billy. I reckon we should probably start with the Broncos. There's a hell of a lot of noise around the Broncos, and what the club has confirmed is that there will be a review. There's no doubt that there's plenty of disappointment. There's plenty of anger and frustration. A lot of the venom being directed at Kevin Walters. Last year they featured in the grand final and only lost by 2 points. What do you make of the situation at Brisbane? What do you think needs to change, or have you been able to get a read on where it's all gone wrong for them this year?
I just think they've set the bar really high last year for themselves. I don't think it's any one thing. Everyone's looking for that one thing that went wrong with the Broncos. I think it's been a collective of a few things. Number one, they set the bar extremely high. That was a fantastic year last year. Made the grand final and performed really well in that grand final for 65 minutes. They obviously learnt a lot, and they probably didn't get over that grand final the best that they would have liked. They lost 3 star players in Herbie Farnworth, Flegler, and also Capewell. I think that took a hit to them as well. They had a whole heap of injuries this year. You think of 3 of their star players in Payne Haas, Adam Reynolds, and Reece Walsh. They all played half of the year. So 14 games for 2 of them and 12 games for the other one. I just think they didn't handle, or they didn't have the ability to handle those injuries like some of the other teams. Melbourne Storm had a whole heap of injuries in key positions as well. That club handled it a lot better than what the Broncos did. So there's been a few things there that just made it a lot harder for them to replicate what they did last year. And then on top of that, some of the individuals in their team didn't reach the standard that they created for themselves the year before. So you add all that up and they just missed the finals. So it's not any one thing. It's not an easy fix. The other thing, they went all the way through to the grand final. So you get 10 weeks off after that. They all come back just before Christmas, or maybe just even after Christmas. They have hardly any preseason. Then they go over to Vegas. That maybe the preparation to the season took a hit as well. So you throw that on the load that everything else is carrying. It was just a really tough year, and we're quick to forget in this game. If we're all calling for Kevin Walters, we're really quick to forget where he picked this team up from. They were on the bottom of the ladder, wooden spoon, and essentially he took them really close to winning a premiership. So, I think unless you're going to put someone better than Kevin Walters into the position, I think we probably should stop talking about that part of the club.
Couldn't agree more with you, mate. Sometimes some of the things that are written and said about people, you just shake your head. Anyway. Yeah. I think we've said enough about that. West Tigers, sadly, they've finished with a 3rd wooden spoon. I feel for Benji, I feel for the players. But they do get some big guns next year, Billy. So is there a light at the end of that tunnel that the West Tiger supporters have been desperately hoping for?
Well, there's some excitement coming to the club and some experience and some successful players coming to the club. I think Jerome Luai is a huge inclusion. Sunia Taruva is a great pickup as well. I think he's a great little winger. And then we've seen some green shoots come through this year. At times, there's been 4 or 5 teenagers, playing on the field at any one time for the Tigers. And you have that much inexperience and in key positions as well. Lockie Galvin's a wonderful player. I love the way that he plays with a smile on his face. I love the way that he attacks the game. You put some experience and some successful players in and around him. Jareem Buller, he missed the back end of the year with a shoulder injury. He's going to be much stronger, much fitter to go through another pre-season and much more experience. They've got some quality to work with. And Benji Marshall, I love the fact that he's leading this young Tigers team forward, and I think he's going to be a wonderful coach. They need to be patient, and I think we'll see an improvement next year because you get another year under these young guys' belts, put some good players in and around them. Benji Marshall will be another year more experienced. Yeah, I think stick with them if you're a Tigers fan.
And just the other one I wanted to ask you about, the Roosters, we probably should have mentioned him earlier, Mark Nawangani-Tawazi, the longest name in rugby league, and he had an instant impact on Friday night, wasn't he good?
Yeah, you could see his talent, couldn't you? I thought he was really good, actually. I don't think he was just good. I thought he was really good. And if I'm Trent Robinson and I need a winger in the final series, I wouldn't be hesitating and throwing him in. He is a big lad. I think he's probably bigger than Suoli'i. He's bigger than Joey Manu. He's really athletic. And his leap reminds me of an Israel Folau. He's just got great timing, great athleticism, obviously, but he's just got that feel of when to jump, and he does it nice and early, and he's got great height with his leap. So I think it's a real strength. They already have some great wingers in Young and Tupou, but if needed, he's waiting in the wings, and he'll be nice and confident after his debut. It was a wonderful game for him.
Did you see his 14 mates that had the letters of his surname up in the grandstand? He's
lucky
he's got 14 mates. Good on him.
He might have had to rent a couple of mates, you reckon?
Mark Nawangani-Tawazi. It's a mouthful, but he's going to have a big future in the game, that's for sure and certain. You're listening to the Billy Slater podcast. Thanks to Ram Trucks. They eat everything else for breakfast. And Tab, we're on. Gamble responsibly. Rugby league has had its fair share of iconic eras. But honestly, I can't get enough of the high-scoring, line-breaking, flick-passing, magic-rounding, origin drought-breaking, Vegas-flying, simply the best era of footy we're in right now. And with more stats, insights and markets than ever, it's the best time in sport, and Tab has the best app in sport. Tab, we're on. What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. And now it's time for the Tab Eras debate. The time for sport is now. Thanks to Tab, chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. And Billy Slater, we're asking the question, does this era have the greatest crop of playmakers? What are your thoughts, great man?
Well, I think the evolution of the professionalism of our players gives you more playmakers. So I think that's only natural that they're full time now, so they're able to work on their craft and their profession a lot longer than they used to in the past. However, in saying that, I think if you weighed the best playmakers of this era up against some of the past eras, you've got Andrew Johns, Jonathan Thurston, Cooper Cronk. I just think some of the top quality playmakers of past eras probably sit above the current crop. So in terms of quality, I can't go past Alan Langer and Andrew Johns, Jonathan Thurston. These type of players, I think they sit above the crop at the moment. I think Nathan Cleary will certainly elevate himself, into that quality. But it's a really tough debate, isn't it? Because when you're talking different eras, you're nearly talking a different game. I know it's still rugby league, but the game that was played back in Cliffy Lyons' day is very different to the game that's played in Cody Walker's day. Now, there's a comparison there to those two players, but it's really hard to measure them up because they nearly played different games.
And I think the point you make about being full-time playmakers is a good one, because if you go back decades, a lot of the players, well, all of the players had other jobs, whether it was doing the garbage run or working at a bank or whatever it is. So they only got their few training sessions a week, whereas the full-time playmakers of today, they have to live and breathe their job because that's what they're paid full-time to do.
Not to mention the time that they had to soak up at the pub as well. That was that has to be taken into account also. But certainly it was nearly part-time back in some of the great playmakers' days. So you could imagine those playmakers back in the day that had the professionalism and the time to improve their skills. They would have been incredible, but in today's game.
And you talk about the importance of the position. I mean, to be that playmaking or playmaker in a rugby league team, that's the creative person who's coming up with all of your attack, isn't it? I mean, it's all well and good for the other players to do their job, and we often hear commentators and experts in the game talking about forwards laying a platform, but it all comes off the back of that playmaker, doesn't it?
Yeah, the result rests on their shoulders. That they still need the team to do their job, but you look at Callum Ponga in Newcastle's team. If he doesn't shine, well, they don't win the footy game, but he still needs the foundation set from his footy team, but the playmakers, they determine the result. The other thing to take into account, and what the playmakers of today need to overcome more than the past eras, is the defensive structures. The system of the defence these days is so hard, to break down, a lot harder than what it used to be to break down. So I know the professionalism certainly helps you evolve and you develop your playmaking skills, but it's also a lot harder defensive line to break.
You spoke earlier about Alan Langer, if we were to pinpoint a couple of the playmakers in this Tab Era's debate. Alan Langer, there's not much of him, small in stature, but he just had this ability to be able to create something out of nothing, which is what a lot of the great playmakers of the past have done and continue to do today.
Yeah, he was very creative, wasn't he? He was my favourite player when I was growing up, and I loved the way that when he saw something, he didn't think twice about it. He just instinctively attacked it, whether it was a little grubber in behind and chase it himself or a pass. He was a wonderful player and showed the courage of a little man in our game. It is dominated by big athletic bodies, but that little man in our game has still got a place. And Alan Langer, back in the 80s and 90s, he certainly showed a lot of us smaller players that it was possible. And I look at Kinney, Trey Fuller, Reece Walsh, Ryan Pappenhausen, Suafalongo, that there's so many little men in our game that really shine today. That's the great aspect of rugby league, is doesn't matter what size you are, what shape you are, it's got a place for everyone.
And then we fast forward to the eighth immortal, Andrew Johns, who we're lucky enough to work with on Wide World of Sports. And I think the thing about Joey is he's a great rugby league player, but he's also one of the great minds in the game, because he's a student of the game, studying the plays, learning from some of the great coaches like Warren Ryan, and what he was able to do on the rugby league field was just freakish, Bill.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a talent, and then it's another thing to be passionate about it and go and increase that talent to a career like Andrew Johns. I remember playing against Andrew Johns. He actually taught me so much about fullback positioning, purely because he was such a great kicker of the football. And like you said, he thought about positioning. He thought about, all right, if I go down a short side here, will the fullback come across and can I hook it back across there? So actually analysing and reviewing my game playing against Andrew Johns taught me so much about my position, because I only had to be a couple of metres out of position and he would take advantage of that. So it just made me reflect on where I was and where I should have been. And, they say you learn a lot from your mistakes, and you play against Andrew Johns, he'll find your mistakes really quick, and that's a great way to learn.
And then the modern-day playmaker in Nathan Cleary, who you alluded to earlier. What impresses you about the number 7 for the Penrith Panthers, who's already won 3 straight premierships?
Yeah, I think it's his consistency. He loves the game as well. Probably doesn't have as much natural talent as an Andrew Johns, a Jonathan Thurston, or an Alan Langer, but he makes up with that with his professionalism, his determination to get better all the time, and he's never below par. His best performance and his worst performances are really close together, and I think that's what makes him such a great player. And you look at when his team are under pressure, and take the grand final last year against the Broncos, for instance. When his team are under pressure and they need something, he doesn't go outside what he's capable of doing. He just does it more often. He gets the ball more regularly, and he stays in what he knows he can achieve. And if that's good enough, great. If it's not, well, so be it. He doesn't push the envelope. He always gives himself a chance because he stays in that little bracket. And he's a wonderful player. And like I said at the start, I think he will be one player that we speak of in that category of the Andrew Johnses and Jonathan Thurstons and Alan Langer. Ricky Stewart's probably another one that comes to mind as well. So we've had so many great playmakers. I think Nathan Cleary will be up there with that group.
Well, there it is, the Tab Eras debate. The time for sport is now. Thanks to Tab, chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, go to gamblinghelponline.org.au. Let's get into the Billy M Awards. The most impressive team in round 27, the final round of the competition. Bill?
I can't go past the Melbourne Storm. I know they were playing the Broncos, and the Broncos didn't have a lot to play for. They were down on troops, but I just thought it was a really professional win by the Melbourne Storm, putting 50 points on the Brisbane Broncos up there at Suncorp Stadium. They were nice and patient, and then their star players really stood up. So I thought it was a great team performance by Melbourne.
Who was the individual, the Billy M Award winner for round 27, the player of the round?
Yeah, I think Kalen Ponga in that pressure game yesterday at McDonald Jones Stadium up against the Dolphins. The winner goes through to the finals and the loser goes on holidays. I just thought Kalen Ponga stood up in the big moments and he guided his team through to the semi-finals. So Kalen Ponga, the player of the week.
We've got our listener questions coming through. We've probably got time for one today. Billy Slater podcast at 9.com.au if you've got a question for Bill. Billy Slater podcast at 9.com.au. Hey, Billy, from Connor, who do you think should be coach of the year? There's a lot of chat around Ciraldo, but I believe it should go to whoever finishes first at the end of the regular season. Therefore, I think Bellamy deserves it. What say you, mate?
Well, it all depends what you're measuring it off. If you're measuring it the coach of the year off the best performed coach of the year, it has to go to Craig Bellamy because he's the best performed coach of the year. He had to overcome some injury setbacks. You look at some of the younger guys that have stepped up in Jack Howarth, Grant Anderson, Tyron Wishart. He's brought all these guys through. Blore, he's done a great job. But if you're measuring it off the individual coach, well, Craig Bellamy has probably hit the standard what he's created himself for the last few years. So then Cameron Ciraldo comes into the equation. He's done a wonderful job. Taking the Bulldogs from where they were as a rookie coach in his second year to bring them into the finals. That's a huge effort. So it just all depends what you're measuring the coach of the year off, and that creates the debate. But I might be biased. Craig Bellamy has done a wonderful job, and to finish first and take out the minor premiership 3 weeks before the season finishes, that's a fair feat.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of more rounds in the NRLW competition. Wins over the weekend to the Cowboys, the Raiders, Roosters, big win over the Sharks, 40 blot. Eels defeated the Titans 24-14, and the Broncos beat the Knights by 32 points to 24. And I was just having a look at the NRL media release that came out yesterday in relation to finals footy. Andrew Abdo saying that in 2024 we've seen spectacular footy, the most tries since 1998, 10 golden point games, almost a third of the matches decided by 6 points or less, 133 million people watching it, and 3.8 million fans who've attended our matches. So that backs up your point earlier that the game's never been in a better position, Billy.
It's in a good spot, isn't it? It's exciting to watch. We all can't wait for Friday night, the first semi-final. Don't know what we're going to do for 5 months in the off-season, but it's pretty exciting, our game, isn't it?
What are we going to do for 5 months?
Yeah, I don't know. We might, Melbourne Cup Carnival, maybe.
Ooh, yeah.
Couple of horse races.
Please tell me you put your hand up for Melbourne Cup coverage exclusively on 9, Billy Slater.
Maybe. I'm not sure yet. We'll just have to wait and see.
I'd like to see you on the pony interviewing the jockeys after the races. Wouldn't that be nice?
Might get a start, actually. Might actually ride in a race.
That'll be turning back the clock. Good stuff, mate. Good to see you. Finals footy, we're all excited. It'll be live and free on 9 each and every one of the 4 games, and we'll have it on the radio for you as well on the continuous call team. Go well, mate. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Mark.
There he is, Billy Slater. This has been the Billy Slater Podcast.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie in the Own.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.